Hello there, my lovelies. It is time. It's a glorious time. It's Friday. And not just that, it's Friday the 13th. But nonetheless, as you can see, I am small. I am in my chibi form. And yes, it's spooky time. I started stream a little late because of the fact that I had some things to set up. I needed to get some things set up, organize things, make sure everything was up to par. I needed to provide the best content for my lovelies. Because you all deserve it. Hello there, Axel. Hi, hello. Also, hello, Emily. Hello. Thank you for joining the stream. Hi. Don't worry, I'll go back to my full form soon. Just thought my small self would be good. Beyond that, though, I am also streaming this on YouTube as well. I had to make sure, double check, no, triple check that everything was good. I had to triple check everything. But it is drawing night for us. And I have a little special treat for tonight's drawing. Instead of some nice calm music, aw, nice. So hopefully everything runs smooth. Yep. Hopefully so. Because I had to check everything and I wanted to start it earlier. But I wanted to make sure everything was up to par. But yes, it's the spooky vibes. It's spooky time. The best time of the year. What are you drawing today? I'm still continuing my series for Fanart Friday. Because of the fact that I wanted to still draw our lovely dearest Shadowheart. So, I thought it would be best to... I thought it would be best to continue it here. But still have my little spooky self around. Let me move myself up so you can see me better. Much better. Such a cute little bee. But, again, for tonight's stream, it will be just my small self. And tomorrow, I'm most likely planning to stream tomorrow as well. Not sure yet. I was thinking that it would be a mashup stream. That's cute, yes. I'm small. I give Invader Zim energy. Every time I go this small, I just become a gremlin. A gremlin that will take your kneecaps. No, I'm kidding. But anyway. I need some water. Hold on. I will get some water. No, I will look cursed for a second. Much better. What game is streaming tomorrow? I don't know yet. I still have to figure that out. I have to see what game I'm going to stream tomorrow. It's going to be a spooky one because it's the right season for it. It's not going to be something too intense like Outlast. Speaking of that, I am going to conquer my fear. The backrooms? No. No. The backrooms is terrifying. I played that game once with a couple of friends. I was the first one caught. I didn't like it. But, speaking of which, for my Outlast series, what I wanted to do was I wanted to... I thought I heard something outside. What I wanted to do was I wanted to record like how the entire series, I might not post it all of this month, but sorry, accidentally bit my lip hard, but anyway. So for my Outlast series, I wanted to at least record it and post it with little edits, and you guys will see how torturous this game is for me. It's pure unbridled torture. Every time I suggest Outlast, it gets rejected immediately. Outlast is something else, I must say that. I don't think I can personally stream Outlast, mainly because of, like, well, when it had come out, YouTube was different back then compared to now. You can try, but the thing is, when you try, it's a lot, especially with the second game having like much more, I think, intense content. I can't really talk about it much, considering it could get me flagged or banned or something, I don't know. But if you guys can see the gameplay on YouTube from other YouTubers, but I will conquer my fear and try to do it, but it will be via recording. I cannot stream it, considering how stuff has changed. But the back rooms, I would have to play it with a bunch of other people. I can't play it by myself. But anyhow, a little bit of announcements. So, damn man, streaming bees so strict and mean now. Well, that's true, but there's not much we can really do about it. I guess because people were breaking so many rules back then and compared to now. Ayo, backroom, say less cream, I volunteers tribute. You want to be the tribute for the backroom stream. Just be warned, I will scream, and this witch can scream pretty loudly. I love the backrooms. I have seen a bit of lore regarding the backrooms, but I have not really delved into it. A lot of people are shocked and surprised by this, but I am a horror fan. It just depends on the horror and the context. There are some things I cannot handle and some things that are just too much for me. But nonetheless, towards my announcements. Number 1, I will be doing my Walking Dead series. I will be streaming the rest of it for this month because it is best to do so. The reason why is because of the fact that I have not continued with that series and I really like it. There was a lot of scuff in the first part, so I'm going to do the first episode again, which would most likely be tomorrow. It'll be a pretty long stream considering it's like part 1 and then part 2. But I only saw the first episode, just the first episode. I have not seen anything else. So it's literally just the first episode I've seen. I find it funny with more people seeing the reaction is funny. Is fun and funny as we all scream together. Trust me, I know. I've seen a lot of chaos happen when it comes to that. When I did it, we were just screaming, unbridled, just screaming. And as expected, I was the first one caught. Not surprising, I know. But I was the first one caught. I ran as far as my little legs could carry me. But, yeah. Yeah, you gotta play the other games and episodes. Yeah, I will. I just hadn't had the time, but considering it's spooky month now, I feel like it would be best. Again, tomorrow's stream most likely is going to be a Walking Dead stream. It'll be pretty long. That's still up in the air at the moment. And oh, hello! Thank you for the follow, Sleepy Hazard. Hi there. Hello. How are you? Thank you for joining the stream and thank you very much for the follow. Whew. Walking Dead stream. Let's go. Yes. The Walking Dead stream. I like, again, even though I've played the first one, I really do like it. I want to see what happens. Only touched one episode. Have to deal with the rest. So. But anyhow, and another announcement. Didn't know you stream from Kick too. I do. The thing was, considering I was very busy, I was only able to stream on YouTube, and I needed help from my friends to get a program set up to stream on YouTube and Kick. But yeah, I do stream on both. I stream on Twitch as well. So. But, okay, another announcement. I need to get water soon again. But anyway. For this month, for my drawing streams, we're gonna do something a little different. I feel like I have mentioned this before. If I have, you guys can just let me know and just say it in the in chat. Just be like, Cream, you're repeating yourself. But anyway. So, for my drawing streams, instead of music, we're gonna have some spooky stories in the back. And yes, I will share the YouTuber who is reading over these creepypastas or Reddit horror stories. I'm not going to put any horror movies. Horror movies for Spooky Month will be done in my server once it grows slowly over time. When it grows a bit larger for next time, we will do horror movies. But I will not stream horror movies. I will have spooky stories in the back while I draw. But I will give my reaction as well towards the horror stories. And I've been seeing this going around. I will also be reacting to analog horror. If you don't know what analog horror is, I feel like the best description for analog horror would be, oh, my chat is going nuts. Horror movies. Alright then, horror videos caught on camera. No, stop. But yeah, horror movie nights will be done in my Discord server. Not now, of course, but I will wait in the meantime for that. And, oh, hold on. I need some water. I've been talking a lot. You need just 1 second, everyone. There we go. Sweet, yes. I wanted to do something very special for Spooky Month because I may be busy, but I didn't have the chance to last year when I was just starting. I believe it was last year. I would have to look back. But now I wanted to start, well, like, my nose itches. I wanted to start more with, like, opening up myself more, and with, it could be with horror movies and with analog horror. So I'll send horror videos with jump scares then. I mean, you can. But as long as it's not very cursed jump scares. But anyway, I will be reacting as well to analog horror. The analog horror will be, I believe, the Mandela catalog and a few others as well. Wait, what's analog horror? So, analog horror, I'm trying to describe it best I can. So, if you check the Mandela catalog, I believe it's called, that's the best example for analog horror. I can also check that as well to see. Let me see here. Yes, I will check that as well, because I forgot the definition. Now, give me a second while I look very cursed. There it is. Alright. Alright, there we go. So, analog horror basically is like found footage. Close to found footage, nearly. It could be something, it's not like the Blair Witch Project, but again, if you check like the Mandela catalog, that's the best example for analog horror. There's a bunch of other examples as well. There's a bunch of other examples, not just that one, but that one is the most popular. So, backroom footage got for you. Well, it depends on the YouTuber. There's some backrooms footage that it looks good, others that it looks cursed, and others that it looks very cheesy. But yeah, I wanted to react to that for some time now. It's been trending for a really long time, I think. I have to figure out when it started trending, but it had started trending for a pretty decent amount of time. And there's one that I have seen. There was a YouTuber that reacted to it, and he did a really nice job giving his own thoughts and commentary, which for this stream, for the drawing stream for tonight, I will do the same. Excuse me. I will give my thoughts on the story, but I will let you guys enjoy the story while I draw, and you guys can soak it in, and I will give quick little pauses just in case. Like, in case you guys want to see... Or, like, hold on. Just moving my stuff over. There we go. Much better. I will give little quick pauses if I need to give my thoughts. Or if you guys want to, like, give your own thoughts in chat as well. But I shouldn't waste any more time. Let's dive right in, shall we? Alright, now, here I am. I'm very large compared to my tablet. And compared to my desk. But let us begin. So, I'm only going to do this for the stories that we have now. The first one we have is, let me see, Spooky Large Cream. Yep. First one we have here, I'm going to do this for credit. But yeah, let me just remove this right here. First one, oh crap. Never mind. I can't show it. For some reason, it won't let me show it. But the YouTuber who is saying these scary stories is Creeps McPasta. So we're going to be listening to some creepypastas for tonight. Alright.
That's a good question, Matthew. Madge squinted at me through muddy brown eyes.
There we go.
She was sitting in her usual armchair by the window.
There we go.
Wrinkled hands folded in her lap. She'd got my name wrong again.
If it's too loud, you guys can let me know.
Correcting her. Through the weeks I've been
Are you
visiting
Iron
her,
Mouse? Yes, my wallpaper is Iron Mouse.
Tim, Fred,
I didn't mean to
Bill,
do that.
Bob,
But yes, my
Henry.
wallpaper is Iron Mouse.
It'll be enough
I
for
love
a football
Mousy.
team soon. I'm used to it by now.
Did not mean to do that. That was an accident, but we can continue.
Said it only confuses them if you keep picking them up on the little things. Of course, Madge.
Also, his
I
voice
said
gonna
now,
trigger my
smiling at
ASMR
her.
and gonna knock me out.
What did you want to ask me?
I mean, it's the best time.
If you were old,
Alright, it's alright. I like
he said
Mousy too.
slowly.
I love Iron Mouse. She's
Old,
just
like
adorable.
me. What would you want to do?
But I'm gonna keep this in the
What would I
back
want to do
while
about
you
what?
guys listen and enjoy me draw.
At the end, love.
If it's too quiet,
Would you want one
let me know.
last big blowout, or would you just fade away in peace? I stared at Madge, trying to hide my confusion. I had the urge to glance
his
around
voice
the
sounds
nursing
familiar.
home for help, but I resisted. I don't know
Not
much
gonna lie, it
about the
sounds
old
familiar.
lady, but I do know this. She has dementia. Has it bad, apparently. That was
Enjoy the
first thing they
ASMR,
told me when I
lovelies.
started volunteering. They warned me she'd likely
Yeah,
say
it
a
sounds
lot
like
of
orc.
things that confused me. Things that didn't make any sense. And they were right about that.
If he had a
I've
British
gotten
accent,
used to it
yes.
by now. But
Because I can
Madge's
tell the
question
accent is
caught me off
British.
guard. I think it was because it was the first time I'd heard a sound
British noises.
close to
British.
normal. The ghost of the person she once was. She'd asked me something. I'd responded, and then she'd follow it up with another question.
Sorry, I meant to say fancy
Usually,
orc.
all I get from her is comments about the weather and
Fancy,
random
very
stories I
fancy.
assume are from her past. Nothing like this.
You guys can hear it all
I
right.
opened my mouth to say
Right?
something back to Madge.
Not too
then
loud,
paused,
not too low.
made myself stop and think.
If I'm too loud, I can lower
Usually,
myself
I had
down.
no problem making small talk with her. But now, I felt a wave of self-doubt drift through my mind. The
Not
truth
gonna lie, I
is,
like this piano.
I'm no expert when it comes
Good,
to
good.
the elderly.
I like this
Especially
piano.
not elderly people with dementia. A long way from it. And despite the image I tried to give off to the residents who live at Eldritch Nursing Home,
My nose itches again.
I'm not actually here out of goodness of my heart either. I should come clean. The truth is, helping out at the home is killing two birds with one stone for me. The volunteering counts towards my Duke of Edinburgh award, which will apparently help me when I come to apply for uni next year.
Ah, uni.
That's one thing. The other is way more interesting though.
Dealing
And
with
that's the
college and
fact
universities
that
is
Eldritch
stress.
Nursing Home is haunted. Or at least it's meant to be haunted. That's what the rumors say.
A haunted.
The place is
What?
practically legend in our town. Ever since I was a little kid, I've heard stories about it. Some say there are ghosts living in the attic that come down and possess the residents at night.
Spooky.
Others say the
Spooky.
building is haunted by a witch called Old Wendy. I've even
Hold on.
heard
I'm
one
gonna
story,
give a quick
my
pause.
personal favorite.
All right, quick pause. You ever heard or like mystery stories? If so, you should listen to Mr. Bellin. I like the way he tells stories. I like mysteries. Just depends, cause like sometimes it just leaves you in the dark completely, but other times I like mysteries. I really do. But let's go back.
That claims a secret child
There we go.
murdering cult is based here. A shadowy organization that makes kids disappear.
Oh,
The stories are all ridiculous, of course.
sounds like
I
a
know
stuff
that. I'm not
Stephen
completely
King
gullible,
novel.
but I will admit, I've always had a weird fascination with ghosts and urban legends.
Same here.
I've always been drawn to them. So,
I don't know
when I
why,
heard
they're
that
just so
one of my
captivating
modules
to
this
me.
year would be on local history, I thought Eldritch Nursing Home would be the perfect case study.
An Eldritch nursing home.
The only problem? The image I had in my head hasn't quite lived up to the reality. Sure, Eldritch looks eerie enough on the outside. It's this huge, towering
let's fix
brick
it.
building on the edge of town that could be straight out of a horror film.
Right.
But
Another quick pause to read chat. His mystery stories or dark stories are based on real life events that happen. It's just the way he tells. It sounds good. Well, to me, I'll check him out then. I'll certainly check him out. Thank you for telling.
as I discovered on my first day, the inside is actually
Mousy
quite
had popped
dull.
up again.
It's clean and modern, and there are staff in bluey-green uniforms fleeting about all over the place. It's more like a hospital than a haunted house. And instead of exploring dimly lit corridors and interviewing creepy old blokes about their encounters with the paranormal, I've been stuck sitting with Madge.
Spooky.
90% of the time she's silent, and the other 10% of the time she spouts gibberish. Only now,
I heard the bass
she
drop.
wasn't speaking gibberish.
She's
Would
speaking
you
Latin,
want
isn't she?
one last blowout, or would you just fade away in peace? I ran the question through my mind. Where the hell had it come from?
No comment.
Sure, Madge had asked me occasional questions before, but it was usually just stuff about my day, or whether I'd put the kettle on. Questions she'd often repeat several times over the course of the hour I sat with her. She'd never asked me anything like this before. I suddenly became aware that Madge was still looking at me, watching
go.
me through her muddy eyes. Those eyes normally twitch back and forth in their sockets, as though they were looking for something she could never quite find.
It's kind of creepy, not gonna
having them
lie.
fixed on my face was a little unsettling.
Just having somebody just stare at
Then
you and
I
their eyes
realised
just twitch, that's kind of creepy.
She was probably waiting for me to respond to what she'd said. I'd spent the last 30 seconds daydreaming, and I'd completely forgotten to answer her. Would I want to have a big blowout? That's right, love. Would you want one last time, or would you prefer to go out peaceful? I shuffled in my seat and
That's a tough
frowned.
question.
I still didn't really know what Madge was on about, but I figured I'd take some advice a nurse called Brenda had given me on my first
I
day.
deleted my layer.
Sometimes it's better just to play along. Well, I suppose that depends,
There we
Madge,
go.
I said now. It depends on what's going to make you happy. I don't really know where those words came from, but they sounded right as I said
His
them.
voice is so
And
quiet.
Madge seemed pleased with my answer too. She actually nodded her head, still fixing me with those brown eyes. Then her smile faded. Can I ask you one more question, Sam?
Go ahead. Ask away.
I felt a tiny chill go through me. Sam. She'd gotten my name right. For the very first time in the 2 months I've been visiting her, she'd actually said my name.
It's gonna come
I
back to
nodded
haunt our
my head.
protag, isn't it?
Sure, Madge. What do you want to ask me? She leaned forward slightly in her chair, kept her eyes locked on mine. After a moment, her thin lips parted to reveal a mouthful of chipped brown teeth. Are you a good boy, Sam?
So
She
creepy.
spoke the word softly, her eyes never leaving my face. Have you been a good young man? I felt another faint chill
Yes?
go down my back.
I could
Madge's
imagine the
lips were
horror and
still
the
parted,
creepiness.
and I had to force myself not to stare at her teeth. I had to resist the urge to look at the watch on my wrist,
Oh my
too,
lord, I love
to
it.
see if my hour was up.
The horror, the
Despite her
spookiness,
best
the
intentions,
creak, the
Madge could be a little creepy sometimes. But she was also ill, and I didn't want to hurt her feelings. I forced myself to meet her gaze and nodded my head,
If I hear a loud jump scare,
fixed
I'm
a
gonna
smile on
scream.
my face. I certainly am, Madge, or at least I try my best. Madge leaned back in a chair, and her smile widened. I thought so. I thought so. A second later, something in her eyes, a hint of intensity that had been there a moment before, faded.
Woman.
Her smile disappeared. Her eyes shifted in their sockets, suddenly looking over my shoulder. I took the opportunity to check the watch on my wrist. I'd gone 5 minutes over. Time to go. Well, Madge, I said, standing up and slinging my rucksack over my shoulder.
No, I gotta leave because you're being
It's
creepy.
been lovely chatting to you, but I have to head off now.
Goodbye.
I'll see you next week, though. Madge only continued staring past me, off into the corner of the nursing home.
Okay,
I
hold
put my
on.
other arm through my rucksack and turned to leave.
Okay, so hearing that, I know I am taking quick pauses and such, and I'm pretty quiet this stream so that you guys can enjoy the story. I don't want to talk too much over it. But how creepy would that be if you're just taking care of like an older person and then out of nowhere, like, because like I've seen this happen, but they just stare at you just blankly, and it just gives that ominous off feeling that you're just like, am I supposed to be expecting something? It's just that, like, hearing that and keeping quiet so you guys can enjoy. Yeah, that's scary as heck. Yeah, it's pretty scary because you're just there, just like, okay, ma'am, okay, sir, I have to go. And they're looking at the ghost behind you. Oh no. Oh no. I'm not gonna enjoy that at all. But yeah, listening to that, I don't know why, but it just had me thinking, like, what, like, bleh, what would they even be staring at? How creepy would that be? For them to just straight up stare behind you and not make a sound. And you're just like, okay, I'm going to go. Okay, I will be back. You take care, sweetheart. I will be back. And they just stare at you. Stare at you with silence. Quiet, easy silence. Nice little silence. Let me stop. Okay. Okay. All right. So, I think we're going to get through a couple of stories for tonight, and then I'm just gonna put on some more music as well. Creepy, and I'm home alone. Thing is with me, when it comes to like stories like these, I don't like to listen to them when I'm completely alone because my paranoia gets to me. Even if I'm a witch, this does get to me. The paranoia just eats me alive, and I'm just checking around, and I'm just like, hello? Who's there? Hello? And I'm just checking my surroundings, trying to find who could be there and who's there. But it's just me and my thoughts alone. But let's continue. Again, I will stay quiet for some of these stories. It's to let you guys enjoy. I've said this before, but I don't like talking much when it comes to these. Want to let you guys enjoy, and I will give my own thoughts and will pause in between. Now, Mousy, are you gonna pop up on my screen again when I do this?
But as I was starting away from
All right,
Madge's
there we go.
corner of the nursing home lounge, a voice stopped me. "I've got something for you, you know."
Yes.
I paused and turned back. Madge was still staring off into the far corner of the room, not looking at me, but now her hands were moving in her lap. As I watched, her gnarled fingers slowly unclenched from one another. I heard a soft rustle of paper. Madge's
Paper?
eyes rolled in their sockets, finding my own. She smiled again. "Didn't you ever use to pass notes at school?" I held a piece of paper in my hand before bed that night. It was a yellow post-it folded into a tiny square.
Post-it
Madge
note.
had told me not to open it until I was going to sleep.
Okay.
Had made me promise. And for some reason, I'd agreed. God knows why. It was probably nothing more than a message to a late husband, or a list for shopping she'd never had a chance to go out and buy.
Or she can
I
see
should have
right behind
unfolded
you.
the thing the minute I was outside Eldridge, then tossed it in the nearest bin.
That's a bad idea.
But I didn't. For some reason, I didn't. And now, as
It's
I
the
held it
ominous.
in my hand beneath the glow of my ceiling light, I thought back to what Madge had said to me earlier. Would you want one last time, or would you want it peaceful? What had she meant by that?
It's the ominousness
For
that
some
really
reason,
gets to
the
me.
words unsettled me a bit. It was almost as if, for a fleeting moment, Madge had known she was old, had known she was ill, had known that maybe, in the not-too-distant future, her days of sitting and talking nonsense with me would be over. But I told myself that couldn't be right. Madge's mind wasn't right. Her question had probably been completely unconnected to the present. It was most likely a snapshot of some other conversation from some other time. As these thoughts went through my head, I opened the
There we go.
post-it note,
It was a doppelganger.
and I felt myself go
Doppelganger?
cold.
A
There were
spin.
only 6 words written
A
on
skinwalker?
that little yellow
A
piece
clone?
of
I'm
paper.
kidding.
6 short words, scrawled in Madge's untidy handwriting. But as I read them, I felt a sick feeling creeping into my stomach, like poison.
Kind of familiar.
I got back to the nursing home at 8 a.m. the next day.
He didn't
Left
even see
before
what
my
the words
parents were up
were.
and cycled there fast, the wind whipping my face as I hammered the pedals. When I finally crunched into Eldridge's gravel driveway 20 minutes later, I was so out of breath I didn't even notice the ambulance and police cars parked near the entrance. Not at first.
Oh, what?
I noticed the officers standing in the reception area though.
What
Pam,
happened?
the woman who sits behind the counter, was so busy speaking with them, she didn't even give me a second glance as I rushed by. There were more police in the main hallway leading to the lounge too. I noticed a pair of officers speaking with a balding man in a white coat who I recognized as one of their home's doctors. Their expressions were serious as they spoke in low voices.
Something happened. I don't like
hurried
it.
by. As I entered the lounge area I'd been sitting in the day before, my heartbeat was fast and hard in my chest.
You see your
My
car
stomach
in the
felt
back.
heavy with dread. There were only a few residents in the lounge. A couple of grey-haired women stood by the window in the corner, whispering to each other.
Well, what's
A large
happening?
old
What?
man sat in a nearby chair on my left, balancing a coffee cup in one trembling hand. I scoured the room for Madge, but couldn't see her anywhere. Her usual chair was empty. I had no plan in my mind at that point.
Oh no, I think she's
I
having
just knew
passed.
I needed to speak to her, needed to ask her about the note. I was about to turn and leave the room when I saw Brenda, the nurse who'd given me advice on my first day. She was standing by a food cart at the far end of the lounge, loading it with dirty mugs and plates. Her face was blank as she worked. I wandered over to her and stood by the cart, waiting for her to notice me. She almost jumped when she finally looked up. Her eyes widened briefly, and then a frown creased her forehead.
Hi, Brenda.
Sam, weren't you in yesterday? I thought you only came in once. Brenda, do you know where Madge is? I have to speak to her. My words came out in a rushed jumble. I felt cold air blowing in my face from an air conditioning unit overhead. It felt cold in my skin, and I realized I must be sweating.
A cold
Brenda's frown
sweat.
increased as she stared at me. And then, all of a sudden, it melted away. I saw something else pass behind her eyes, and
Wait, now I'm
suddenly
curious. Hold
realized
on, before I read chat.
how pale she looked. She still had a white china mug clutched in one hand, and as she lowered it to the food cart, I saw that she was trembling slightly. Her eyes left my face and scanned the lounge around me, as if she was looking for help. Oh, Sam, didn't you hear? No, of course you wouldn't have. You only just got in.
The climax is gonna happen.
She trailed off and ran a hand through her greying black hair. Brenda is middle-aged and overweight, and right then, I thought she looked almost like a frightened animal, like a badger caught in the headlights. I opened my mouth to respond, but she spoke before I could. The words tumbled out of her mouth in a rush. It only happened last night, Sam, and we didn't find out until this morning. I don't know why Pam at the reception didn't tell you when you came in. She kept talking, but
Poor
I could
Brenda.
no longer hear what she was saying. My own heartbeat was ringing my ears. I was picturing Madge sitting in a chair with her hands clasped at her lap. Madge asking me if I'd want one last blowout or something peaceful. Madge pushing her crumpled post-it note into my hand.
Okay.
I turned away from Brenda without saying anything, began walking back across the room. I was faintly aware that she was calling my name, but I didn't turn back.
Sam, come back!
Just kept walking until I was
Sam!
back through the lounge doors, back into the corridor beyond. The doors swung shut behind me, and I leaned against the wall, pulling in deep breaths, waiting for my heartbeat to slow in my chest. After a moment, I shut my eyes and concentrated hard on the rhythm of my breathing, like Mom tells me to do when I'm anxious. In for 3, out for 5, over and over. When I next opened my eyes, I found an old man staring at me. He was stood on the opposite side of the corridor, his back to the wall.
Oh,
I
where did you come
recognized
from?
him as the same guy I'd seen on my way into the lounge,
Hold up.
drinking coffee in an armchair. He wore a dark blue dressing gown that was hanging open to reveal a stained grey t-shirt and checkered pajama bottoms. The skin on his face was loose and flabby, drooping towards his neck like melted candle wax. His nose was large and curved. I could see a network of little red and purple veins in his cheeks, spreading out below tiny blue eyes that were buried in folds of flesh. Eyes that were fixed on mine.
That's so creepy.
You missed all the excitement. The
Excitement?
man spoke in a thick Dorset accent. I stared back at him, unable to find words. He grinned at me. Went away in the night, she did, he said. They went right into a room this morning, and poof, gone. Just like that. Think we don't know what goes on around here, but we do. We talk. He let out a low chuckle that sputtered out into a cough. The sound made my skin crawl. When the man looked back up at me, his blue eyes were watering. You want to know a secret?
No,
He
I do not.
lowered his voice, glancing up and down the corridor. When they got in there, all they found on a bed was teeth, like she'd melted into the bloody mattress. I opened my mouth to respond, then closed it. The old man began chuckling again, and I took a breath, waiting for him to finish. Madge? I asked, after his laughter had died out. Do you mean Madge? Did something happen to her last night? The old man frowned at me for a second,
The music in the
then
back, too.
broke into a grin. His teeth were even worse than Madge's had been. A dull brown, like the colour of coke. Oh, something happened to her, all right, he whispered. Only, we don't call her Madge round here. What's that? Madge, you said her name was? Only round here. We call her by a middle name, Wendy.
Wendy.
The man let out another throaty chuckle. Oh, yes. She was always old Wendy to us. I turned and walked away from him on legs
Oh,
that no longer
quick
felt
pause
like...
in chat. Quick pause. We got some things in chat. Hello, Sarah. Hi. Hello there. Hi. As you can see, we're doing a little art stream. Hello. Hi. Hello. I took a quick little pause. And FYI, I am more quiet than usual because we're listening to horror stories. We're listening to some spooky stories for tonight's stream. And I want you guys, again, to enjoy it. Yes. Ooh, spooky. Yes. We're going to be listening to some horror stories for tonight, so that's why I am mainly quiet. If we weren't listening, it would have had music in the back and just talked more. But because it's Friday the 13th, it would be best to listen to some nice, scary stories. We're going to listen to a few while we do this. And we're going to move on to another one, like have some music. And I think maybe after this, like after like 2 stories from this YouTuber, we're gonna move on to like 2-sentence horror, like a compilation of like 2-sentence horror from Reddit. And because I think 2-sentence horror is on it is really good. Your imagination goes wild when it comes to 2-sentence horror. Mind you, 2-sentence horror does go by pretty fast. This is so nice. I like this. Thank you, dear. But yeah, we're gonna listen to like a few of them because this this YouTuber that's reading the stories is kind of quiet. So I think it would be best to just listen to like maybe 2, 3 more after this. And then we're gonna move on to a compilation of like 2-sentence horror and then some music. Because I don't know how long this stream is going to be, but that's my plan for tonight. Just again, I'm more quiet than usual because of the fact that there's a story in the background. I will just talk on occasion. But yeah, let us continue. Well, I should be here more often because this stream is so comfy and chill. It is pretty comfy. It's just art for tonight. Just the usual art. Nothing too heavy, nothing too hectic. As per usual, dear. This is only for Fridays, the comfy stuff. Thank you for the follow, Sarah. I very much appreciate it. Thank you so much, dear. But anyhow, we're going to continue. And I will say this one more time. I will say this one more time. I will be quiet so you guys can listen nice and well to the story. Again, let me know if it's too low or if I'm too loud. Let's continue.
My own. His laughter followed me down the corridor. Once I was back outside Eldridge,
Let's continue.
I reached into my pocket and pulled out the post-it note Madge had given to me. I think I was hoping the message would be different.
Where's this layer?
But the words were still the same. It read, I killed and ate 13 children. I crumpled the note into a ball and closed my
Hold
eyes.
on, what?
Mortality is a weird thing. It
What
hits
was
you
it?
like a bag of bricks once you make it to your late 20s or early 30s. It's about the time when your family starts getting diagnosed with all
Wait!
kinds of diseases, heart attacks.
I'm gonna continue, but what was that ending? I didn't expect that ending. Oh my god, I didn't expect that ending. I didn't expect that. Oh my. I know I'm taking pauses a lot, but what was that ending? Oh my, what? So it turns out in the end that, okay, so from what I was able to gather, like the rest of it is on the story's amazing. Oh, I didn't expect. Okay, okay. Oh my god, okay. I'm gonna restart the other one, but so by the end of it, she just gave him a note saying, I just consumed and unalived. Anyway, I consumed. I heard like the last few minutes, but excuse me. Oh my goodness. Oh, okay. So I did not expect that. So it was just that, like, this was. So the woman that he had taken care of was essentially like a hag. Because of the fact that, like, okay. Like, Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. But, like, the person that he had taken care of, the reason why the old man was chuckling, I think it was because of the fact that he had worked in the haunted sort of nursing home. And she gave him that sticky note. I think it's because of the fact that she was like a ghost or a hag. That's the only way. What's that ending? I told you she was a ghost to begin with. Like, I don't think a ghost would just straight up just like consume 13 children. I don't think she was a ghost. I really think she was just a hag. Because of the fact that, like, a ghost would scare them, but not, like, straight up ghost consuming 13 children. Like, I don't think a ghost would do that. I'm pretty sure she was, like, a hag like creature who had turned into a human. Um, and that's how she got the kids. What was that ending, bro? Bam, if a ghost is hungry, they hungry. Oh my god. Okay. I have no idea what that ending was, but okay. Bro, I always imagine if a ghost eats something, it just passes through them. That's my thought process too. I'm just like, huh? What do you mean? Like, it's gonna pass by them, but for the old man to just be standing there, just like in the hallway, just being like, And that's how I imagine his chuckle being like, just to be like, and that sort of thing, just sitting there, being so quiet, and the cackle, and our poor pro tag is so confused. He's just like, what is happening? So then he just comes over and sees this old guy again. This old guy just being like, "You don't know what we call her, do you?" And our pro tag is so confused, like, "Huh? Her name is Wendy. You'll learn more about her in the future." There was excitement in the air. I don't know why. That kind of sounded like the Joker, but okay. I don't know why. I just like that cackle too, just to go, and then he stopped. Oh my god, okay. I did not expect that ending. I thought it, okay, I said this before, but I thought it was like what Axel had said, like, she was gonna say, I was dead and you saw my like my corpse this whole time. Not that she just straight up consumed children, and 13 of them at that. But anyway, I have no words. I have no words. Okay. Oh my god. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Let's move on to the next one. Okay. All right. So the next story we're going to be listening to. Mind blown. Now time to watch. I mean, like, it would be funny for us to watch that, but I feel like we can watch that once, like, we're able, like, again, once we get more into the drawing, because tonight's drawing night, so I can most likely watch those sort of, like, videos tomorrow on Saturday. Besides the scary stories and art for tonight. Because I think scary videos would be nice to have. If there's like a dirty jump scare that comes at me, then no. But anyway. Alright, so the next story, if Iron Mouse doesn't pop up on my screen, the next story that we're going to be listening to is called I Found a Lump on My Arm, and now we're all going to, now, ugh, let me read that again. I found a lump on my arm, now we're all going to die. That's the title of the story for this one. And we're going to listen to one more, and we're going to move on to something else. Now enjoy, everyone.
Is a weird thing. It hits you like a bag of bricks once you make it to your
OMG,
late
it's a
20s
freaky parasite.
or early
I feel like
30s.
it would be a parasite.
It's about the time when your
If
family starts
it's a
getting
parasite,
diagnosed with all kinds
if
of
it's not a
diseases,
parasite, I'm
heart
literally
attacks,
going to walk out of
strokes,
this room.
cancer. For me,
Let's
facing mortality
now time to
meant
be
something
quiet
as
and you
innocuous
all
as
enjoy.
finding an old lump on my arm while showering. It might not sound like a big deal, but it's important to note that my younger brother died from osteosarcoma, a fairly aggressive bone cancer, and for him, it was nothing more than a small, tender, unmoving lump he found on his leg. Even then, it was too late, and he died a year later at the age of 7, which meant I was absolutely horrified to discover a similar lump on myself. Over the course of a few days, as I awaited my doctor's appointment, the lump grew ever so slightly. It had a strange shape, like a column of bone that hurt to touch. During examination, the doctor looked at me with concern in his eyes.
That's real scary, actually.
It pretty much confirmed what I'd already suspected, that the growth was bone, and it would probably turn out to be cancer.
No.
He did not hesitate with referring me to a radiologist and told me to return once the imaging had been done.
Oh
A
no.
few days later, I returned, and as I sat in the office on the brink of tears, 1,000 thoughts ran through my head. What to tell my sister? How to spend the remaining time left on Earth? Would it hurt as much as it did with my brother? At the very least, they'd certainly have to amputate my arm, which would severely compromise my gaming abilities. Can you even drive with one arm? Then the doctor called me in. He didn't seem concerned, but baffled, as if he hadn't the faintest clue what was wrong with me. After some consideration, he finally started speaking, unleashing a jumbled mess of medical terms and incomprehensible sentences. He took a deep breath before finally stammering out, It's not cancer.
But what is it?
Despite the presumably good news, he didn't seem relieved. There was something he held back.
What is it?
Then, what's wrong? I asked. It's a tooth.
A
He
tooth?
could not explain it any further,
A tooth?
so he just showed me the x-ray. Even with my limited anatomical knowledge, I could see it clear as day. A tooth was growing straight out from my ulnar, its roots firmly cemented in the bone, while the crown pushed on the surrounding tissue. On one hand, it wasn't cancer. On the other, I had an impossible, bizarre growth extruding from the wrong part of my own skeleton.
A tooth? That's
The
what I'm
doctor
saying. A
sat down
tooth?
with me
I think
and
you're right,
explained the
Sarah. I think it's a
concept of
parasite.
keratomas, a type of benign tumor that frequently grows hair, skin, and partially developed organs. Despite its unusual presentation, we settled on that idea and scheduled me for surgery. It was a quick and simple procedure. A couple of days later, they discharged me and told me to rest a bit before returning to work. I was content, though admittedly a little bit disturbed by the whole ordeal.
I mean, I would be too.
Life went on, and my arm healed up nicely, the scar almost completely covered up by the inappropriate amount of hair I'd started growing during my teenage years. A couple of weeks passed, and the surgery was all but a distant memory. Then, after a morning of increasing back pain, I found blood in my urine.
Ouch.
Doctors will typically tell you not to get riled up just because you found blood in your pee, because it could be caused by pretty much anything and might not be blood at all.
Still concerned,
However,
though.
I did worry, and with a sense of panic, I rushed to the emergency clinic where they quickly tested my urine to confirm the presence of hemoglobin. That,
Ew, no
alongside my
blood in
back
pee.
pain,
Still bad. That's
made
still
them
bad, yes.
confident I was suffering from nothing more than an innocent little kidney stone. One of the interns performed an ultrasound scan just to rule out cysts and whatnot. But her casual demeanor quickly turned to an expression of fear as she put the sensor against my skin. She excused herself and left the room, only to return after 10 minutes, dragging with her an older, presumably more experienced doctor. He seemed annoyed to have been called in for something so simple as an ultrasound. He grabbed the device without introducing himself and tried to look for a kidney. Just as with the intern, his annoyed confidence quickly turned to one of worry, and he too left without explaining what the hell was going on.
I'm so confused. What's happening?
By then, my discomfort had turned to excruciating agony. They'd already put me on an overabundance of painkillers, but it barely put a dent in the suffering I had to endure. I stood up to grab a hold of the doctor, ready to demand answers. But once I got to my feet, my vision started fading, and I collapsed to the ground. From there, my memory was hazy. A combination of pain and drugs put me in a trance-like state. I vaguely remember being taken for some sort of scan and a tube being shoved down my throat. And finally, everything turned black.
I think that was peeking against my door.
It would take me 2 days to awaken once more, at which point I was greeted by a team of specialists, all looking way out of their depth. They explained as best they could that I'd fallen into a coma following severe internal bleeding,
Oh my
and
goodness.
that I was an inch away from death when I was brought into the operating theatre. And if not for an insane stroke of luck, I wouldn't have realized. Despite the success of the surgery, they still seemed nervous, and I could tell there was more to the story. After a lot of talking around the point, and even more bizarre medical terms I couldn't possibly comprehend,
His hand's making me
I
annoyed, by the
got
way.
mad. Just tell me what the hell is happening to me. The oldest of the bunch finally stepped up and started explaining himself. Mr. Woodcomb, to be brutally honest, we haven't the faintest clue what kind of affliction you've come down with. It's quite frankly beyond anything we've dealt with in the past.
So I'm basically screwed.
What does that mean?
Like,
Am I going to die? I
No.
asked. He took a deep breath. We can't know how the disease will progress, but what is happening to me? I yelled as I tried to sit up, still too groggy from the drugs, unable to feel the presence of my own body. He explained what had happened to me, that my stomach had started migrating towards my left flank, where it had enveloped itself around my kidney,
Oh?
slowly but certainly absorbing and digesting it. The process obviously severed its blood supply, which caused a bleed out that almost killed me. They'd fixed the tooth, and they'd stopped the bleeding, but a part of me knew it wasn't over. I'm still not fixed, am I? I asked. He shook his head. I'm so sorry, Mr. Woodcombe, but this disease, we don't know how to stop it. At this point, we're just treating the symptoms.
This is so sad.
By then, I'd woken up enough to coordinate my movements, but I still couldn't feel my right arm. I turned my head to check on it and saw that the vast majority of my lower and half my upper arm had turned almost completely white. I tried to lift it, but my muscles simply wouldn't budge. The skin looked so smooth, like perfect silk covering an almost shapeless blob.
Blub.
I'd always been a
Fluffy.
skinny, albeit toned person, so my veins were fairly prominent. Except now, they'd all seemingly vanished from my forearm, leaving nothing but a stump of a vessel I could see actively retreat away under my skin. It happened before you woke up. There was no time. We couldn't. What the hell is happening to me? I asked once more. We don't know, he said. I looked at him in despair. These were the people that were supposed to help me. If even the professionals were baffled, I was screwed. Mr. Woodscombe, your arm has absolutely no blood supply. I'm sorry, but we need to amputate it as quickly as possible.
Ah!
You shouldn't even be awake right now. They made me sign a consent form before proceeding. Just the act of writing my own name with my one remaining functional arm was an excruciating ordeal. Another few hours went by, and my right arm was a part of the past. Once I woke up from my third surgery, the doctors informed me that I was to be transferred to a more specialist health facility. They didn't even have the courtesy to call it a hospital. They airlifted me, wrapped in a containment box of sorts, to prevent the spread of a disease that could potentially be contagious. While flying, I was strapped down with no view of my surroundings. Wherever they were taking me, they would not tell. And, based on a few glimpses I got of the world beneath us, I wouldn't have known anyway.
It's so horrifying.
On the ground, I was met by a team of doctors dressed in hazmat suits. The health facility looked more like a warehouse than anything else, and didn't ease the growing fear within me. They rolled me through an airlock, ensuring nothing infectious could get in or out. The inside of the facility was a massive, isolated room with hundreds of patients lined up next to each other. No rooms for privacy, nor drapes to keep them apart, which meant they all probably suffered from the same condition as myself. One of the
Maybe you
patients
could be a
stared at me.
special case.
He panted with shallow breaths as his chest had transformed into a thick wall of bone. Each rib fused together, making breathing an almost impossible task. Another, younger woman, had skin that seemed to be shrunken a few sizes too small, stretching to the point where it had become a pathetic cover of epithelium, allowing her muscles to be clearly visible. But the worst was the patient in the bed next to mine. All his limbs had been amputated, and the
God.
entirety of his skin was covered in thick, bright red arteries, some of them actively bleeding, while others had been burned in a futile attempt at cauterizing them. He groaned in agony, almost inaudible, strained sounds emerging from his toothless, tongueless mouth. His eyes and nose were missing, replaced by seemingly healthy skin, simply grown over most of his orifices, including his ears and scalp. He was trapped in pain, unable to hear, see, or communicate with the world around him.
That's so
But if he
horrifying.
could,
And
I'm
sad at the same
certain
time.
he would have begged for death. After a couple of hours staring at the horrifically mangled people around me, the doctor approached me. He was a tired-looking old man that had been broken by the afflictions of others. I'm Dr. Foreman. Your name is Eric Woodcombe, correct? I nodded.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to administer a drug. It'll slow down the progression of the disease. Will it help? Can you help me? I asked frantically. He looked around, seeming to check if anyone could hear us. It'll slow it down, but it won't cure it. We're not even sure what causes this disease, but antimitotic drugs seem to put it in a sort of stasis. What is it exactly? I asked with a trembling voice. It's an infection, Mr. Woodcombe. Though it's not bacterial, viral, fungal, parasitic, or prion in origin. All I know is that it affects anyone that touches it, and that we're not going to be able to contain it for long.
Touches
I
it.
then asked a question I already knew the answer to. Am I going to die? He nodded, his emotionless face never changing. How long do I said,
This is so
before he
sad.
interrupted me. A week, maybe 2. Once the disease has converted all of your organs into an incomprehensible mess, and when the most experienced forensic teams would be unable to recognize your corpse of that of a human being, that's when you'll die. His bedside manner left a lot to be desired, but it was obvious that he'd gone through that speech 100 times before. He was detached, desensitized from the nightmare that surrounded him. As he turned around to leave, I noticed his arm had bone spicules, skeletal spikes protruding through his skin. Doctor, your arm. He looked down at it and sighed. I told you it was infectious. Everyone
Now
in
the
this room, staff, patients, even the dogs that have lurked around the site. The guys outside wearing hazmat suits have been hunting them down, but it's too late for that. Not that their fancy protection gear will help them, but I'm not going to break that news to them.
No, the
I was
doctor's
speechless,
infected.
and he could tell his words hadn't comforted me in the least.
I'm
He
so
just didn't.
confused by what's happening.
I'm sorry, but you should make peace with your family, friends, whatever you have in this world. Because if we don't find a viable cure within the next week, they're torching this place.
So,
As the
okay.
days progressed, they kept bringing in more and more patients.
Okay, so another quick
Some
pause.
looked almost normal, healthy even.
All right, so I'm a little confused on like what's happening because I'm listening, but like I think I'm starting to understand what's going on. So it's like a mass almost. Like considering what's happening to the people who are infected, I think you're right, Sarah, that it could be parasitic what's happening in the story. But it also reminds me of like those creatures from, I think you're right, like I think it could be from what's happening. But besides that, what I think is also happening, it like from the descriptions that it's giving, it reminds me of like those like the mutations from Resident Evil. It just reminds me of that. Something like that. Like I know that's extreme, but the way that it's described reminds me of that. It just like wrapping my head around the entire story, I feel like it could be something like that. Yeah. It's an like an infection from Resident Evil or something like that. Because the doctor was infected. We don't know how it happened. Like it spread through the air. There's nothing that can really be done. Now, let me just get some more water. Much better. But yeah, what I really think is that it could most likely be that, or it could surprise us all at to see how much we have left. We don't have much left for this story, so let's continue on.
Even while others were unrecognizable, their faces replaced by a solid mesh of flesh and their organs relocated to the surface of their skin. One of them had his heart placed outside of his chest, beating as if nothing had happened, with thousands
Oh
of
my.
additional arteries extending from it, like a spider web, covering most of his torso. The pain must have been too much, because as he walked past my bed, he grabbed his own heart, attempting to rip it off. A few of the arteries tore open, sputtering crimson blood all around him, but the
Ouch.
heart itself wouldn't budge. He groaned, and with one final pull, he fell dead to the ground.
Oh,
Clutching a clump of meat he'd managed to pull from the then dead heart. As they lifted his lifeless body onto a stretcher, I got a better look of his face. I realized that I recognized him. He'd been the doctor that examined my lump, the tooth stuck in my bone. He died because of me. On the 5th day of my containment, I started to lose vision in one of my eyes. I could feel it pulsating, growing within its socket, but I didn't dare look at myself in the mirror. A few hours passed, and suddenly I felt a pop, followed by the sensation of a viscous liquid trickling down my face. My eye had exploded,
oh, that's
and
gross.
still, I didn't have the guts to put myself in front of a mirror or to call out for help. In a couple of days, they'll burn this place to the ground in an attempt at preventing the spread of whatever disease has infected us. The doctors aren't hopeful about a cure, but fire seems the safest option, just turning us all to ash. A price worth paying to save the world, I suppose. At least they've given us all a chance to call loved ones. But I don't have much of a family, so to speak. The thing bothering me the most is that I'll most likely die without knowing what killed me, where the disease came from, or how I could have avoided it altogether. Hindsight is 2020 and all that. Not that it matters to me. I'm already dead. But whatever finally got me, it's still out there.
Okay, so final thoughts for that one. That one was it was horrific in the detail, but it was also really, really, really sad. It was. I don't think that was like a horror story. That was really sad. 8 out of 10. Honestly, like it was just really sad. Like really, really sad. And the thing that got to me was the fact that I like it though. Like it was good. It was just a like listening to it like the eye popping cuz like for me I personally don't like intense body horror. That's my limit. But listening to that was just incredibly sad. And that creature or person that walked in front of him that ripped out its own heart, as it said in the story, that was the doctor that had touched him at first. That, like, when we had commented on, like, the tooth, yeah, the doctor was already infected. So, I really feel like that over, my thought is, it wasn't a parasite. That's a fair point, yeah. So, it wasn't parasitic. So, it was infectious. So, I think it was like an invisible sort of like, kind of like those creatures from The Last of Us. Something like that. It reminded, like, reading that over reminded me of those creatures from The Last of Us. Is it clickers? Yeah, I think it's like clickers. I don't know. I have to check what it's called because I haven't played The Last of Us. But it reminded me of that because it's invisible. It's like an invisible spore that attaches to your body. And because it's invisible, you don't see it until it's too late. But that was horrific, but that was mainly just really sad. That was just really sad. Okay, so I'm gonna see what else this YouTuber has. So let's see. All right, so there is one more we're going to see for now, and we're gonna move on to either music or two-sentence horror. Either one of those two is fine. Because again, the narrator is kind of pretty quiet, and I know it's like quiet for the ambiance, but I don't want to be like too quiet for too long, even though I like the stories. But I'm gonna see one more, and I'm gonna have to think of which one to choose. Either two-sentence horror or two-sentence horror that I just again pause once it's done and talk about it with you guys, or just have some spooky music in the back. If you guys have any suggestions in chat, you guys can obviously let me know and say which you prefer, the two-sentence horror or the music. Either or we will do for this stream. Now, let's continue. Alright. So now, for the last one. That is a very scary image on my screen. Okay. Alright. So, the last story from this YouTuber is called "This Screaming Child is Ruining Our Meal, but we can't leave the restaurant." Alright, without further ado, let us go.
Let me just make something clear.
Very interesting title.
I never get to go out anywhere nice. Like ever. My best friend and I struggle to pay our bills every month, so anything fancier than McDonald's is usually out of the question. We'll save up for months to go on one of our roommate dates, so it's a really special treat.
Roommate date.
I've never been to the Lotus Bloom before, but it's one of those overpriced pop-ups around the city that everyone has been raving about. We just barely got a reservation, and I was so excited to go. We basically had the menu memorized before we even arrived.
I must have been really
the second
excited
we were
to go there.
seated, I see this mother and her kid 3 tables over. Honestly, it kind of shocked me given the price of the place. Of course, I was mostly just worried about the child throwing a temper tantrum and ruining the atmosphere. I mean, look, I'm not a huge kid person, but I don't mind them when they're well behaved, or at least in places they belong. I'm not going to give you the stink eye if your brat is screaming in the middle of Chuck E. Cheese. But this is a nice place with no kids menu and a $40 per plate minimum.
$40?
Like, who in their right mind takes a little kid here? I tried not to look over, but Steph was obviously annoyed too. The girl looked about 6 or 7, so I thought maybe she was too old to throw a fit at a restaurant. But I didn't count on it. It was just a knee-jerk reaction, you know. I was on edge, anticipating having to deal with another parent who just didn't give a crap if their precious poopsie was bothering the other guests.
Poopsie.
At any rate,
I don't know
it
why
was
that was so
relatively
funny. Just
quiet so
poopsie.
far. We ordered our food, and after chatting for a while, I pretty much forgot all about the kid. Then the screaming began. There was no warm up. It went from upscale ambience to a shrill, blood curdling shriek. I would have thought the kid was being murdered, and I looked over reflexively. However, immediately after that ice pick to the skull, the kid was laughing at the top of her lungs as she ran back and forth down the aisle. The mother, for her part, didn't even seem to notice. Totally detached, staring off into space.
So she's just letting
So,
her kid
we all
just
have
do
to
that?
deal with it, while the mom just blocks it out. I looked
Wish you could
around
draw like
and saw
you.
that a few other
I'm gonna
people
teach
were
people,
just
don't
as
worry,
annoyed,
don't worry.
though
I will
none were
teach
staring
people
as
how to draw,
blatantly
of
as I was.
course.
I
Not
tried to
now,
catch the
but
mother's eye,
later.
but she was a million miles away. I waited to see if the waitstaff would do anything, but I figured they weren't allowed to intervene like that. I remember a news story years ago where parents were outraged by a restaurant putting up a sign asking parents to keep their kids well behaved.
I'm going
I
to
felt like
just fix
getting up
here.
and yelling at the woman myself, but I didn't want to
Now
end
let's
up
zoom
getting
out.
kicked out instead. Now, before you all get mad at me, I'm not hating on the kid herself, just on the fact that this wasn't really the place for her. And honestly, it isn't the kids
Okay,
so
quick
much
pause.
as the people raised.
So far, this is our drawing. I like it so far. I decided to add a second version of our dear Shadowheart because of the fact that, well, she does have, like, something does happen to her in the game, which I will, like, since I can't stream it, I will have to record it. Excuse me. But yeah, since I can't stream Baldur's Gate since it has lagged on me so much, I'm gonna have to, like, record it and then post it in the future. Ah, I like it. Thank you. Thank you very much. But I will be right back. I am being summoned. So I will be right back, everyone. I have returned back. It took a little while, but I had returned back. You come back. I just wanted you to know that I gotta go. But thank you for the comfy stream. Yes, of course, anytime. I'm glad you were able to join. Oh, even though it was kind of quiet and we were just listening to stories again. But thank you so much, Sarah, for joining. It was nice having you. Now let us continue. So a little recap for anybody else in chat. Right now, we're just like the story we're listening to right now. There's these two roommates. They went to a restaurant. There's a child, like a pretty young child, that's screaming at the top of their lungs. They won't stop screaming, and basically they're just trying to relax. But right now, they really can't because the child keeps screaming and it's kind of bothering not just them, but everybody else. So after this, I've decided that once the story is done, we're going to move on and we're going to have some music in the back so that we can get further along into the artwork. And for the last bit, we're just going to listen to some two-sentence horror. Once we finish with like the line work, the colors, etc. But let's continue.
Raising them. Can't fault the child, so
There we
I
go.
tried really hard just to ignore the laughter. Obviously, it's better than screaming. Loud and a bit annoying, but whatever. I didn't want to let it ruin my night. Steph had this
I'll be
super
quiet so you guys can
irritated look
enjoy.
on her face, and I knew she was thinking the same thing. But none
I
of
need
us
water.
said anything. Our food arrived a few minutes later, and it looked even better than the pictures on the site. How often does that happen? For a second, I was too focused on my meal to stress over an unruly child. However, I barely had a fork in my hand when the little girl started shrieking again. I jerked my head over and saw the kid standing next to a table, staring right at her mother and screaming in rage. Again, the mother didn't respond, even when the little girl started knocking cups off the table. The tantrum escalated as the girl began pushing chairs over, but her mom just sat there like nothing was happening.
Oh, the child's being
I
very
couldn't
problematic. Okay.
believe she was that passive about her kid's behavior, and I
Oh no, I
tried to
would not
catch a
let that
gaze
slide.
so that
No.
she would know it. But that was when I noticed the mother's expression.
Absolutely not. No.
Like, really noticed it.
No.
She wasn't just a little spaced out. It was like she couldn't hear the kid at all. In fact, her eyes were kind of glazed over, and for the first time, I saw how pale and exhausted she looked. Maybe that's normal for a parent with a difficult child, but this just seemed different.
It's off-putting.
The sound of shattering glass made me jump, and I realized the girl had managed to break a plate. That was when a server finally approached. Maybe the manager, based on the attire. I was relieved and hoped they'd just ask the woman to go. It was hard not to rubberneck, but I turned back to my plate. Maybe they'd leave without causing a scene. But when the girl screamed again, it was like a shockwave through the restaurant. My water rattled, and Steph and I looked at each other. I heard a strange sound, and when I looked over, I noticed the manager was partially hunched over, his hand on his mouth, and his eyes were closed. As his legs started to buckle, I noticed blood trickling out of his ears. He collapsed, and I could clearly
Huh?
see blood pouring from his mouth and nose too. Most of us stood up then. Some diners ran over to help, calling for someone to dial 911. I noticed people around me with their phones out before I could even reach for mine. But seconds later, the girl was screaming again, and all of the people who'd been trying to help the manager suddenly cried out in agony. Several of them fell over, and the ones who didn't were holding their heads.
Quick pause. I just got hit with the big news from my sis and her friend. Ooh, what's the news, Axel? We must know. What is
I
it?
noticed that they all had blood trickling from
Sorry,
their ears,
okay, it's okay. It's
some from their
perfectly fine.
noses too, even their eyes. I stumbled back and knocked over my chair. Steph was up now too,
Perfectly
and we
fine.
were inches away from the scene. The girl screamed again, and several of the patrons screamed with her as blood gushed from their mouths, eyes, and ears. The rest of them hit the ground. Some of them had their eyes open, unblinking, dead-eyed, like the mother.
I did this
The
wrong, didn't
little
I?
girl turned to face the rest of us, her face red with rage. I can't remember clearly what happened after that. I recall people screaming and pushing, rushing to the doors. Steph and I were just far enough back to avoid getting trampled as tables and chairs and people alike were shoved out of the way. When the girl screamed again, all I could hear was ringing. I cringed and grabbed my ears.
Okay, so for the story,
They were wet. For a moment,
is she
my
like a
vision
demon child?
swayed, and I thought I might pass out. Beside me, Steph had fallen to her knees. I gritted my teeth and grabbed her by the elbow, hurrying to the exits as fast as I could. But when I got there, I saw people freaking out, banging on the doors and windows, unable to open them. There were people at the emergency exit, people throwing chairs at the glass. The doors weren't budging. My ears throbbed, but my hearing was starting to come back now. I looked over and saw the little girl crawling up to the level where all of us were huddled. Tables and chairs began to topple out of her way, without her even touching them. My adrenaline was too high to really process what I was seeing. I just knew we had to get out of there. There were no other options, so I grabbed Steph and made a run for the back. I figured there had to be an exit through the kitchen, though I feared it would be blocked too. It was better than just standing there either way. Once we reached the kitchen, however, I quickly realized I wasn't the only one with that idea. We met an aggressive crowd, pushing through the small space in a frenzy. If we tried to push through, we'd probably be injured. When the girls screamed again, even from the other room, the pots on the stove exploded, covering people with boiling water.
That's
Some of the
demon child.
burners were still on, and fire burst through the air, spreading over the panicked patrons. I froze, watching people burn alive before me, until Steph grabbed my hand and pulled. Together, we ran down the back hall. It was a dead end, but for the bathrooms. The handicapped restroom was the only one that was single stall, the only room that locked. We ran inside and secured it, then put our legs up against the door from that position to make it harder to open. Of course, putting pressure on the door won't stop it from being ripped off its hinges, and I get the feeling that our efforts are pointless. I tried 911 several times, but all I heard was a sharp, static kind of sound. The screaming outside of the room was so loud, I felt like it was cutting through me. It
Ouch.
went on for a long, long time. Steph and I have been in here now for a good half hour. The screams have gradually died down. It's gotten pretty quiet. We talked about checking to see what was happening, but I don't think it's such a good idea. Especially not when it's so silent after all that. Even if people had managed to escape, it wouldn't be this still. I can hear steps though, echoing down the hallway. Someone is heading our way.
It's
Short,
her.
bouncy steps.
It's her.
Skipping maybe. Steph is reaching for my hand. I guess I am done typing anyway. have you ever noticed gaps in your schedule?
Okay, so that was the last one. Okay, so how's the story? So we got through a couple of them. This last one, I didn't really like it all that much. So for this one, a little synopsis, like a little summary. This last story, basically, there's a pair of roommates, and these roommates just wanted to go to a nice fancy restaurant. They wanted something, they wanted to spend time with each other. What they did was they had went and decided to go to a specific one that had this child, this little girl. And this little girl was causing a tantrum. And what this little girl did was, it turns out this was a very supernatural child. The child turned out to be, well, it was a demon child. And she had basically gotten rid of every single person in the restaurant, starting with her mom, and then going towards the manager, the waiters, everybody. Because by how they described her and how things were being flown around, yeah, that was a demon child. There's there's nothing to that. That's literally just a demon child. Because of the fact that things are being flown around. And everybody screaming, trampling over each other. It's just chaos. But nonetheless. But yeah. Nonetheless, though, for this one, again, I didn't really like it all that much. It is like the one that really necessarily got to me was the first one. That was the one that had gotten to me. The second one was just incredibly sad. It was just really, really, really sad. And this last one for the night, I didn't like it that much. Like, it was, yeah, it's like a demon sort of child, but I didn't like it all that much. It was sad towards the end because, like, the protag and his roommate aren't going to make it. It's inclined that they're not, like, considering he said that, like, he typed enough. So, yeah. I would say, though, out of this batch, I'm gonna do horror stories again, but I'm gonna have to check for different ones. But that's all the horror stories we're gonna listen to for tonight. Let me just go back. And what I'm going to do is we're just gonna listen to some nice music for the night and keep trying. There we go. But nonetheless, in my next stream, which is most likely going to be tomorrow, I'm going to figure out what to do. And yes, we're going to be watching scary videos. I know it was recommended, but we're going to be watching some scary videos. I think it's going to be a game, and it's going to be analog horror. I said that in the beginning. How long was I going for? An hour? Okay. It's a game that we're going to do, and it's also going to be like analog horror because I want to react to it with you guys. I think it'll be fun for the jump scares and to just see everything, and you guys could just see my reaction to these jump scares. But let's continue. Overall, though, from all of those stories that we listened to for tonight, again, the first one was scary because the fact that, like, the old guy at the end, like, he had revealed that the woman that our protag was taking care of was a hag. I know a lot of you guys said that. No, I think it was Axel. I think it was Axel that said it's a ghost, but no, that's a hag. That old woman has to be a hag. Why? Because of the fact that, like, considering how she's described and what she wrote in that note, that has to be like a hag-like character. Can't be a ghost. Moving on though, the other one, the second one, which was like kind of like body horror, that was way too sad. That wasn't horror at all. That was way too sad. It was like too sad for its own good. Like it was just like Resident Evil types of body horror. That was way too sad. Especially with the eye popping out, that was just way too sad. Then this one with the scary spooky child. Yeah, no, I personally didn't like that one at all. I wish it could have had more to it. Like, there was a change that had happened to her. Like, yeah, there was a change that she was affecting people in the restaurant, but that there was like more of a visible change to the child that could indicate like what happened to maybe the original child, that like maybe this demon creature like thing had grabbed the original child, done something to it, and is now trying to like get people for food. That could have been the solution for that one. It just, nah, that one just didn't sit right with me. It didn't. It just really didn't. Yeah. I'm gonna see again for any more like good creepypastas to watch in the future with you all for the rest of this month. Alongside that, like I said, we're gonna be listening to Reddit no sleep stories, because there is a lot of really good Reddit no sleep stories. Yeah, there's like a lot of good Reddit no sleep stories. Some that I've listened to and they're just so horrific but also so sad at the same time. Excuse me. And beyond that, I think what we're going to get to here, since we had sketched the other form of Shadowheart for like a bit of these, for people who have played Baldur's Gate, you know why I drew her like this, but for the ones who have not, you will see it along with like clips of her on YouTube as well, on why her hair is different. I do not want to give spoilers because nah. I don't want to give any spoilers. Right now, it's just color mapping. As I said before, this is just color mapping, just where the colors are going to go. This one is just going to have a bit of changes. Like a lot of it is still the same, but... Oh yeah, and I have another announcement I was going to make, but I forgot to make at the start of this stream. So, once October is over, there is a series that I want to do with you guys that I'm super excited to do. The series I really want to do with you guys because of the fact that I think it'll be really fun. I don't know how long it's going to be, but this is specifically once October is over. I won't give any hints on what the series will be. You guys will see it once October is done and once I'm ready. I'm really excited to do it because I'm gonna give a little hint. It is a game. But that's the only hint that I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna say what game it is. But, again, once it's done, we're gonna be jumping into a brand new series. I'm really excited to play this. I wish I could tell you guys more, but I can't. Because I want to keep it a surprise. If I said what it was, it would have ruined the whole surprise completely. If you guys want to take guesses, you guys can take guesses. All right. Alright, so the color mapping is going to be a bit on the grittier side, considering the fact that, like, I think we're going to do color matching for next Friday. Yeah, next Friday we're going to do some much more cleaner stuff. Because this time I wasn't able to really do it, considering the fact that I wanted to at least listen to a story with you guys. Here we go. Now her shoes. It's like a darker color sort of here, and my nose itches again. I don't know why my nose itches so much. Alrighty, there we go. Here, 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 and here. Here, here. Here. There we go. Nice and beautiful. Oh! Let me just fill in some parts. It's like a more brownish tone. Like a darkish brown. Right around here. There we go. Much better. Alright. So, I'm gonna leave the color mapping just like that. Did I put it on the wrong layer? I think I did. I think I did. I put the color mapping on the wrong layer. I'm so mad. I was so focused, I didn't realize I put it on the wrong layer. It's fine, we can work with this. That means we just have to do it again. We have to make a new yellow border. Make it with a bright yellow this time. There we go. We can add the white on top of it. And then move this back. Bam! Fixed. Alright. So now, it's time for the line work. Actually, I should work on that hand, shouldn't I? I hate drawing hands. No. But let's continue. I'm gonna work on the hand and then do line work. Because I could leave it like that, just leave it like a mitten, but no. There we go. Give her a little itty bitty hand. And now, fix this here. And then we can finally move on to the line work. There we go. Yes. Now let's go. I just realized one of her fingers is too big. It doesn't look like a hand, it just looks like a thing. Excuse me. Now let's fix this one and then we can move on. There we are. Now Shadowheart has a proper hand. And all 5 fingers. Let's put these 2 back here. Voila. Now time for the precious line work. And I think that's all we're going to do for tonight, since we were able to get through the other half, her other half. Have the building blocks. Sketch it. Base color. Quick stretch. Much better. Was able to do it. And I like it. So, we move on to the liner, and then we stop. How long have I been going for? 2 hours? Okay. Okay. I've been playing this game for a while now. I've been playing Baldur's Gate for a little while now, and from this perspective, from my own perspective, because they obviously have the first and second game, I have not touched those, and some people say that they got introduced to the series just by the third one alone. This was my first installment of the series, and how it looks incredibly well done. Like, it looks super well done. And I love the fact that this game is actually getting really popular, considering I love games like these. And it's just overall just so relaxing. I love it so much. I gotta fix this ear before I continue talking. Here we go. Overall though, this game it's really good. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites because I have a fantasy game I always have in my heart. I will never replace it. I've played it when it's gotten me through like pretty hard times, and it's kind of like one of my comfort games, and I cherish it so much. So, with this game, if I didn't have that sort of like hold on the fantasy game I love so much, which is Dragon Age, I would have said this is one of my favorite fantasy games currently. Because of the fact that it's done so well, the story is done really well, the character creator is really, really good. With or without mods, it's really, really good. I use mods in my gameplay, only cosmetic ones. And it looks really nice with the mods that people have done for this game. And I'm right now in one of my gameplays. I'm in Act 3, so I'm nearly at the end of... Yeah, I'm nearly at the end of the game. The game is really long, too. Some people have said that it's just like super long, they can get past it really quickly without like breaking a sweat, but others say that they'd like taking their time. Considering it just makes the game more relaxing that way. Which I can completely understand. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I can completely understand that. But with this being my first installment, not gonna lie, I've seen hype about this game for a pretty long while, but at the time I didn't get it because of the fact that, like, again, I was just pretty new to it. I wasn't into D&D as I am now. And overall, this game also opened my mind to like a lot of story opportunities I could do, because I do have an art account as well. It's on my Linktree. There's some really old accounts I'm gonna delete for obvious reasons. This is like super old. But I do like to also write in my spare time. I like to write. I also like to create my own characters, which I have a couple. A lot of them basically are shown on my art TikTok. And I've drawn them in like similar styles, so like Hello Boss, for example, like Vipsy style. And some other styles as well. It's like crows. They're so cute. Crows or ravens in the back. There we go. There we are. After a stream, I'm actually going to just get a snack, relax for a little bit, and most likely watch a movie. Or just hop onto Baldur's Gate, I don't know. There we go. But again, I do have, there's also another one I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah. I am also going to continue my Batman Arkham City series once a spooky month is over. Once it's over, we're going to continue the series. And going to play other series as well. The other series I think I'm gonna do after Arkham City, because like there's one I have in mind. One I have in mind and I really, really, really want to do, but again, I cannot say. I have to wait for when the time is just right. I feel like once that first series is over, we're going to do Batman Arkham City. And yeah, Batman Arkham City we're going to do. And what else? I'm thinking. Thinking of other series to do with you guys, because I really wanted to do Resident Evil. I was thinking about doing Resident Evil for this month, but since I was so busy and so caught up, I wasn't able to. I had streamed Resident Evil 2, the remake, a very long time ago. So, I wanted to redo that now. And because I've beaten the game before. But I wanted to do it again. I'm not going to do it on the hardest difficulty. I've tried playing games on the hardest difficulty. It has made me so frustrated. I literally needed to step out of my room. I really can't play games on the hardest difficulty. I told that to a friend once. I can't do games on the hardest difficulty. It's too frustrating for me. And he said, that's a skill issue. And I'm just like, that's not a skill issue. What do you mean? He's just like, that's a skill issue. You can't play games on the hardest difficulty. Skill issue. And I'm just like, that's not a skill issue. He's just like, yeah, that's a skill issue. And he just rubbed it in my face. And I was just like, are you serious? He's just like, yep, that's a skill issue. This is just like more of a challenge. I'm just like, yeah, but it's so frustrating because you can get stuck on the hardest difficulty. Like, yeah, but that's the point. Like, it's best to just play it on the hardest difficulty in order to pass. I'm just like, no, I'm good. Because I have played God of War 3 on stream. That series was probably one of the funnest I've ever had because of the end. The end was so climactic and so intense. It was worth it though. But I had to play it on like the easy difficulty because it was so long since I played it. And when the first time I did it on the hardest difficulty because I wanted to challenge myself. Never again. Never again. I got stuck on one of the first bosses that I couldn't pass. I was just like, I can't pass this. And for those who don't know, for God of War 3, a bit of spoilers, one of the first bosses is Poseidon. And he was a massive pain to deal with. He was an incredibly big pain to deal with because of the fact that he just annoyed me left, right, and center. Because I tried to dodge a lot of his attacks. He was just like, ha! No. Don't try it, elf. If you do, you will suffer. And that's what I did. I suffered for that run. But anyway. Where is my... Oh. I have played a little bit of God of War 2018. I have not played Ragnarok yet. But I think in the future I will play Ragnarok. Because of the fact that, like, I love this series as a whole. It's such a good series. I have not had, like, the full series of me playing it on YouTube because of the fact that I need to censor half of it because of a certain character. Her booba is going to destroy my channel because her scene was uncensored and I couldn't censor it on stream and I was freaking out and I was just like, how am I? And I was freaking out and I had to step away to figure out how I'm going to do this. Which was not on my case. I was really worried that they were, but they weren't on my case. They were just like, you're fine. But, ironic enough, but Twitch was like, it was just like, you know what, you can't search it, it's fine. But I was really nervous and really scared. I was just like, oh my god, my channel is going to get destroyed. Now on to her feet, her tiny little toes. And there's one more toe. There we go. Her tiny little toes. But anyhow, when I did my God of War series, it was so much fun, but I had gotten stuck. I was really worried that I had gotten stuck completely. And I managed to do it. But that series overall was just, it was fantastic. I would love to play the God of War 3 again, if I could. But since I've already beaten it, I'm not going to. Overall though, it is one of my favorite series. I would love to like go through and play the others because it's just so critically acclaimed. It's such an epic series, and for those who have not seen it, go check it out. It's such a good series. There we go. And beyond that, there's more too, actually. Alright, there we go. We don't need much left for this, do we? For this side, we don't. Alright, so we just need her hair. And this side is done. Then we can move on to the other side. And we'll take a little breather. And just stop. So that my small self can relax for the night. Because I've been screaming way too much. But yeah, nonetheless, there's beyond that, there's other things I was planning to show you guys. Still though, I'm gonna keep it a surprise. On a different note, the other day, while I was at work, I was waiting to get picked up, and I went to go get some coffee, and oddly enough, this was the first time I've ever made my coffee practically how I wanted it, because normally I make it too sweet or I make it too bitter. And this was it. The first time I made it literally perfect, and it just tasted like a pure sugar cookie. And I was just like, now I want sugar cookies. I wanted sugar cookies. But they were out of sugar cookies. And I was just to myself, I was like, I wanted sugar cookies so badly. Because of this coffee, I want a sugar cookie. And I'm just like, bro, I really want a sugar cookie. The reason why I mention this is because of the fact that after stream, I think I'm gonna get myself some cookies. But moving on. For the spooky season, I think I really want to get Pecan a little outfit because of the fact that she deserves it. She's such a cute little dog. Pecan is my precious baby, and she is adorable. I wanted to get her a little bumblebee costume because, like, I know it's generic, but she's adorable. I love when people dress up their pets for Halloween. It's the cutest thing I've ever seen, and I wanted to do it with Pecan. She's the type of dog that she loves to just run around and just be free, but when it comes to like clothes and sweaters, she'll just be standing still and not want to have anything. And she will just look at me with these big pleading eyes, and I'm just like, Pecan, you look so cute. And she's just looking at me like, Mother, I do not enjoy this. Remove this off of my body, please. But nonetheless, she is like, I will, if I get a costume, will post pictures of what she looks like in the sweater, like in her bumblebee costume. Still don't know what to get for her. I really think it should be a bumblebee. Alright, now to make my life a little easier with this. I'm gonna make this here, put this here. She looks so grumpy. Look at her. She's like... She's so grumpy. Look at her. Shadowheart. She's grumpy. I didn't mean to make her like that, but she looked just so grumpy. Looks like she just wants to go home and doesn't want to stay for too long. She's like, I do not want to be here. Alright, let's make the little pieces. Since this is going to be tiny, this is going to be excruciating. Oh crap. I thought I heard something outside. Yeah, I thought I heard something outside. I was wrong. But let's move this here. Make it a tiny bit smaller. There we are. Our headband shouldn't really take us long, considering the fact that it's just a small pendant. Like a very small pendant. I don't know why, but listening to this, it kind of reminds me of something from Billy and Mandy. I don't know why, it's just like the theme of it. Especially with the little ooze in the back. Yeah, it just reminds me of something of Billy and Mandy. If anybody remembers that series. That was such a good series when I was a kid. I used to love watching it, and same with Courage. But there's this one villain in Courage, the Cowardly Dog. If you guys know the one I'm talking about, it had horrified me for years to come. I could not, for the life of me, watch TV if that character was on the screen. With just that episode alone. It had freaked me out so much, I really couldn't watch it. The character was, for anybody who is curious, the character was like this void, like this white floating head. And the white floating head basically had no eyes, and it was like a realistic head. And it had, again, it had freaked me out so bad, I could not watch it at all. And I was basically really paranoid because of that thing. It was so disturbing. And I was not the only one. Little Cream was not happy when I first saw that thing. That thing really had messed me up. Because I know from Courage, there's a lot of characters that get to little kids, but that one had got to me really bad. It had gotten to me really, really bad that if I was to see something like that again, I wouldn't know how to react. Even as a spunky sort of witch with very chaotic energy this month, I would not know how to react. That really messed me up. It was bad. To say the least, it was bad. And even more so, like, as an adult, I'm just like, oh my god. Because a few friends and me were just talking about the series and was just like, what was the scariest villain that you had seen in Courage? And I was just like, it was that white floating head. And some of my friends said that that was also scary for them, but some said that it wasn't, that it was just fine. But excuse me, it was just something about it that just literally got to me. And I was just like, no. Absolutely not. We're not doing this today. And even like years later, looking back for nostalgia's sake, it's way too horrifying. Oh. And some people could agree with me, some could not. They said that's not scary at all. Others said, yeah, it is. It was pretty scary at the time, or still is. Just overall, man. That was something else. That floating head thing was completely something else. If I could turn back time and not just straight up look at it, I would be a very happy elf. There, besides that, there was also like this thing. What was it? We were talking about SCPs as well. And there was one of them that had horrified me so bad that, again, I can't look at an image of it. It's too bad. My friends already know what it is, but just way too horrifying for me. I really can't look at it. The first time I laid eyes on that thing, it was just too much. Because I think it was because of the fact how realistic it looked. I was just like, no, man, I'm not dealing with this right now. And a lot of us were like saying which one freaked all of us out. Even as adults and growing up. The one that I said basically had mixed reactions to it, because when it comes to SCPs, it all just depends on which one you find scary and which ones you find cute. But the one I said was scary, or that horrified me the most, really... Again, it had left such a bad impact on me. Every time I see it, and like when people talk about SCPs and it's in the thumbnail, I'm just like, haha, no! I scroll past. And it's kind of hard because people like using that one because it's so popular. But I'm just like, hey, no! I would want to like see animations for SCP characters to just react to them. I think I'm gonna like post my reactions for those on YouTube. If I can get to them this month, if I can't, that's completely fine. We always have next year. Alright. There we are. Alright, so we're midway done with Shadowheart right now. Like midway done with her line art. Not gonna do any coloring for tonight. We can do the coloring next time, considering we did do the color map. Now let me zoom out. Overall, it looks really good, but I gotta fix the thing on her. Like this right here, I have to fix that. I think after this next stream, like next Friday's stream, is just gonna be the coloring, shading, so on and so forth. Here we are. Let's clean this up here. Much better. Alright, now we can progress. Much cleaner. I think one day I do want to go back and rewatch a lot of the shows that had really horrified me as a child. Because looking back on some of these shows, I do not think they would fly today. That could just be a me thing, but I don't think some of these would technically fly in today's world. How so much stuff has changed, I really doubt it would just straight up fly. I've been like really tempted to, because of the fact that there was one, because like there was a compilation I saw from like, I think it was Disturbing Moments of Kids cartoons, like when there was like a really dark sort of like scenes and just stuff that was basically out of a horror show. But if I can most likely look back on it and bring back any nice little memories with you guys. This line is not cooperating with me, and I do not like it, and it does not like me. There we go. We are much better. Alright. So after this arm, I'm gonna take another quick stretch because I've been sitting here for a pretty long while. Much better. I didn't do the booba right how I did it this way, did I? No, I did not. Let's fix the booba. No. Yeah, let's fix the booba. Not gonna do the intense zoom in as I did with Melina's, but... Okay, so I think with here, we're nearly midway done. No, that line is too long, okay. Here we go. Not a little zoom out. like it so far. My mother decided to pop into the room. I'm gonna ask her if there's any more cookies left. I think there is. Alright, we don't need that much left and we're nearly done. Oh, with the line art that is. Also, I've been seeing these posts on like Twitter and such, Twitter, X, whatever it's called now. But there's these things where somebody was saying that like a lot of YouTubers have these really nice voices, and I'm just like, I do. And when I read it, I was just like, I do not have a nice voice at all. I sound like a hamster who is on helium. Helium! Like a little small hamster on helium. I've been told that I sound like a mouse, so. And the person that told me that I sounded like a mouse basically retracted their words and said, you don't sound like a mouse. And I'm just like, yes, you had said that yourself, so. Can I just copy the foot that we made? Like the other foot? I can't, considering the fact that it's at it's at a different angle. Woe is me. There we go. Perfect. I might have done the toes correctly. I'm not sure. I will look at it once I turn off the sketch layer. I cannot draw toes nor feet for the life of me. Nor hands. I can draw shoes pretty well, but when it comes to like open-toed stuff like this, I cannot do it for the life of me. Sometimes it works out well, but other times it's just like, oh god, what is that? Just like, what have I created? What is this monstrosity? That's not even a foot. It's a claw. It's a talon. Alright. Now, here we are. Let's turn off the sketch layer. Overall, I'm very happy with how this turned out. I love it. Alright. So, zoom out a little bit, lower this down. There we are. Now, this is what we're working with right now. I might have to check the feet after stream, but this is what we're working with right now. I love it. But we're gonna have to stop here. Let's pause the music. Go back. I'm small. I am so small compared to my chair. Okay. Now time to put my tablet back. Ah, yes. So, overall, I really liked this, like, stream that we did. Again, I was more quieter than usual because of the fact that we were just listening to some nice stories, something spooky for the holiday season. I thought it would be fitting, especially considering today, being the 13th and all. But, nonetheless, I had fun with you guys. It was very nice in order to just relax, draw, and listen to some spooky stories. But nonetheless, this is where I'm going to stop stream. So, again, I had fun with you guys. I love you guys so very much. I will see you guys next time. Bye bye, my darlings.